Morning, everyone. So I'll do my presentation in English. My name is Lin Feng. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Onion Math from Beijing. And so for today's conference about flipping the education. And since we have the founder of this idea, Mr. John Bergerman, so I'll leave the reasoning behind why we need to flip to him. So for myself, because Onion Math is a company, and we have a group of more than 200 full-time staff working on supporting teachers, hopefully all over the world, but this time mainly for mainland China teachers, to flip their teaching by supporting them the various educational softwares, digital resources, videos, lectures, methodologies, also handouts, materials. We prepare all these supporting ecosystem for the teachers in mainland China to help them to move from the traditional teaching part into this new era of flipping classroom teaching style. So I'll share our practice. Hopefully this will have some enlightenment or some ways you can borrow to conduct flipping in Hong Kong. So I'll start. So first of all, still we're trying to talk about the reasoning behind flipping, but the reasoning for us, why we think flipping is important. So I invite you to think about one opinion. This is the opinion we've heard from many teachers, all over the place, pretty much. In cities, in the urban areas, suburb areas, rural countries. Almost all teachers will tell you that students are getting more and more difficult to teach. I see some smiles from your faces, so probably you share the same feeling. And so we're thinking about the reason, why teachers think students are more and more difficult to teach. And finally, we come, after doing a lot of thinking, doing a lot of kind of brainstorming, and then we figure out there's one reason. Because the students have evolved into a new species. Well, why is that? Because when we grow up, we deal with more of our lives or learnings were dealt with paperwork, books. And at the age of, I don't know, 10 or 20, we started to reach kind of getting exposures of internet. And by then, the internet was very slow. You need to dial on, and you need to have maybe 63.6K or 55K, whatever. And when we click on something, it will start kind of loading, right? For loading for 1 minute before something shows up. So we all get used to this kind of slow, interactive process. But for our students, they grew up in the age of at least ADSL, 4G, or whatever, high-speed internet. And they have these pads, they have fast computers. So when they click on anything, the result will show up instantly. When they were like age of 2, 3, 5. So when they grew up, they were growing up in an environment of high interaction. So they were not getting used to waiting. They want to be participating in everything pretty much they can see. So similar thing transformed into classroom. So we can probably sit in a classroom listening to a lecture for 45 minutes without feeling strange, but they couldn't. When they sit in a place without feeling the participation, they cannot control their mind. Their mind goes away to somewhere that they even don't know. So what the teachers are facing is still a group of students staring at you, looking at you, but their minds already is going somewhere else. So teachers got confused. Are they listening or not? It seems to be, but when I send a test, obviously they're not. So then what can I do? Can I raise my voice? Can I throw a chalk to someone who I think is not listening? Yeah, it probably will work for a short period of time, but overall, it's not a solution for everything. So we think the students need a new way of learning, a way they can feel the interest, the fun of learning, and they can participate into the process of learning. And they can control their own space, they can control their own pace, they can learn basically based on their own needs, so that they can feel more participation, they can get more involved, and they can learn better. So I can share one of the videos we created for this process. This is a video for, I think it's 8th grade math, introducing why we need irrational numbers. Oops.
我们都知道，一个小的数减去一个大的数，正数就不够用了。于是我们定义了复数，数的家族扩大到了有理数的范围。那你有没有担心过，如果有一天一直打遍天下无敌手的有理数也不够用了，要怎么办？这个问题古人早就遇到过了，他们不仅遇到了，还因此酿成了一场危机和惨案。这还要从2500多年前的古希腊说起。 古希腊时期经常被称为人类文明的童年时期，那时人类刚刚摆脱野蛮状态不久，认识事物的方式也就比较天真。结果就是他们认为世界的本源是水啊、火啊这种看得见、摸得着的东西。但是有那么一群人在思想上跳过了童年，直接进入了中学2年级，他们就是毕达哥拉斯学派的成员。他们认为世界的本源不是那些具有实体的东西，而是抽象的数。 不过，他们对数的认识都限于有理数的范围内，这是因为他们对数的认识都是从生活经验中得到的。比如，市场上买几个苹果、土豆，就有了整数的概念；要是买半张饼或者大半罐蜂蜜，就有了分数的概念。所以，毕达哥拉斯学派认为，宇宙万物都只能通过整数和整数比，也就是分数解释。 并且对有理数的各种规则掌握，还可以让他们获得与神灵接触的钥匙。于是，他们就成立了一个人数众多的神秘团体，团体中的人都要献身于这种拜有理数教。这种算算题、拜有理数的日子，一直持续到公元前400年左右。学派中出现了一个震惊当时数学界的叛逆，他发现了一个神秘的数。这个人名叫希伯斯，据说是毕达哥拉斯本人的学生。 他的老师有一项了不起的发现，就是直角三角形中2条直角边的平方和等于斜边的平方。这个发现后来被称为毕达哥拉斯定理，也就是我们大天朝说的勾股定理。我们初2会详细学习它。讽刺的是，也正是这个让毕达哥拉斯学派扬名数学史的定理，当时却动摇了学派的信仰。希伯斯发现，当一个等腰直角三角形的直角边是1的时候，它的斜边长度怎么找也找不到。 因为这个数必须要满足平方是2这个条件，可谁的平方是2呢？无论是1、2、3、4这种整数，还是1有1/2、1有1/3、1有1/4这种分数，都无法确切地表明这个平方是2的数。希伯斯搜肠刮肚，做了各种可能的尝试，最后终于意识到一个严峻的问题：有理数不够用了。 希伯斯感觉新世界的大门向他敞开了，于是开始研究这个神秘数。最终，他证明了这个平方是2的数确实不是有理数，只能用一个新数来表示。这就是数学史上第一个无理数根号2。这个神秘数的发现让毕达哥拉斯学派大为震惊。传说这群用有理数解释万物的人实在无法接受无理数的存在，于是以渎神的罪名把希伯斯沉入了大海。 毕达哥拉斯学派虽然中2，但他们的数学知识在当时是最尖端的，也就是说，当时的人们对数的认识都局限在有理数内。希伯斯虽然死了，但他发现的根号2却在当时的数学界掀起了轩然大波，动摇了数的基本概念，形成了一次颠覆认识的大危机，史称第1次数学危机。 虽然有理数和无理数的名字只差了1个字，但实际上对有理数的认识基本上是从生活经验中总结而来，而无理数的发现却脱胎于数学本身的规则。直觉和经验不一定靠得住，推理证明才是可靠的。可以说，从这里开始，数学这个迷人的游戏才算是真正的 The game is on。 这也就是为什么祖冲之爷爷推算出了派的小数点后期位是这么牛的事儿了。没想到吧，我们熟悉的派可也是高端洋气的无理数哦。故事讲完了，下面就轮到你了，让我们一起在这一章认识无理数和他的家族吧。
金牌。
So we're trying to make these kind of animated videos and explain concepts in a different way to students to try to, first of all, try to raise their interest. So we're trying to make some fun, some jokes, some interesting way to narrative this kind of stories that students can feel it's get closer to their own life. That they can feel math is not some super abstract concept that created by some gods or my superior teacher that whatever he tells me is the truth. So I need to remember and to emphasize that and I'll write down whatever it needs to get me a good score in an exam. Math is something happens everywhere. It's just part of the real world. And people abstract this concept and create more concepts based on some logic. And logic is fun. So we're trying to create this kind of idea that students can get interested in this kind of thing. And also we're trying to emphasize the key understanding or the essential understanding and the guided questions so that the students can not only learning the knowledge, like remembering this kind of all the formulas, but also understanding the key concepts, key ideas behind math. For example, what's the difference between a function and a equation, and what's the difference, what's the connection, why we need both things to solve different problems, and etc. And also we're trying to keep the pace, the way to narrate things in different ways. For example, some concepts, some parts, we need probably faster speed to speak up the things. And for other parts, which is more difficult for students to understand, we're trying to slow down and to adjust our pace so that students can follow their minds through the videos. And one important thing is we'll all try to also try to keep the videos as short as possible. Average length of these videos are from 5 to 7 minutes. And this specific video is targeting one concept only. But not only just this concept, we're also trying to introduce why this concept is necessary to solve other problems, and why this one is linked to other parts, so that students can have the whole picture, not only just focusing on this single one thing. But watching video is not enough. The students, so the key goal is trying to let students to learn on their own. Well, at least some part of the learning can be flipped so that they can learn on their own. But simply watching videos are not enough. So also created an app called Untitled and put the entire learning process into it. So students can, for example, choose a textbook version and see the whole structure of the whole semester, or even 3 years, 6 years, and they can select whatever concept they want to learn. Teachers can also assign which concept they need to students to learn for example, tomorrow's lesson. And students can then start watching the video. But after watching the videos, we have interactive, the AI-supported problems, exercises. So students can start solving some easy problems, and gradually the system will push more difficult questions. And eventually the students can use what they've learned from the videos, from the easier questions, to solve the more difficult ones. So the entire process for one topic is usually like 10 to 15 minutes, but varies from students to students, because they can control their own pace. If they feel like this video is kind of fast, then they can stop and rewind. But if they feel like, oh, I've learned this before, so you can quickly flip through this and then start answering the problems. So, and if one student failed a question, the question will not jump to the next, more difficult ones. It will stop at this level, showing the explanations and inviting the students to watch the content again. And then try a different problem but at the same difficulty level before moving to the next one. So all students are doing things, learning things based on their own pace without being way more challenged, but slightly challenged, so that they still reach but won't feel desperate. And there's another short intro on the entire system.
今天给大家介绍洋葱数学。洋葱数学以动画来呈现初中数学的内容，目前有超过500部免费视频，覆盖了初中3年所有教学内容。下面我截取了部分动画影片，让大家快速感受它的风格。每个章节的开始会有引入视频的介绍，这一部分融入了很多数学历史，也建立起生活与学科之间的连结，激发学生学习兴趣。在讲对称时提到了泰姬陵，在讲三角形时提到了百慕大三角洲与夏季大三角。讲解基础知识点的概念课中，将抽象概念可视化，让学生秒懂知识点，如通过折纸让学生理解对称，利用双手的重叠去感受全等的对应，通过动态几何软件观察渐进的几何变化。而这一集的函数把变量与常量讲解得非常到位。在解题课部分，会先包装成破解任务的情境，如在讲乘方的应用时，视频会引导学生如何抓取问题重点，旁边会有小攻略帮助回顾重点知识。在讲中位数时，除了定义，也会讲解中位数使用场合及其意义。而在解方程时，也会通过适当的引导，让学生真正掌握列方程的方法，帮学生建构解题思维，并有非常清晰的解题步骤。每章节最后会使用心智图总结归纳本章节的重点，提醒学生哪里会有考试的坑。此外，还有一些跨界连接，比如将对称连接到苏东坡的回文诗与山水画。而全等的最后会拓展延伸，为什么 SSA 不可以证全等？洋葱数学在设计整套课程时，除了考虑知识线外，情感线的交互融入也是很重要的一环。对于学生，除了动画视频之外，会有一些在线练习，检验学习情况，有各方面的能力分析图表及徽章奖励制度。而对于老师，在洋葱数学 APP 上会有丰富的教师功能，包括创建班级、布置作业以及学习分析，可让老师掌握全班的学习情况。除了数学外，洋葱也已经上线了初中物理课程，推荐大家下载 APP 来体验，高效进行自主学习，提升数学成绩。
As the video mentioned, actually we have already more than 1,000 videos like this, all made in the past 4 years. And has already been fully covered the entire 7th to 9th grade math. And we're expanding this to high school and primary school, elementary school math as well. And now we have physics for middle school. So we're trying to, eventually, hopefully in the next 5 or to 10 years, we can cover an entire range of the subject. And as just mentioned, we also have the interactive practices or gamification system within the app, so that students can play a role in this kind of onion virtual world and compete with their classmates, schoolmates, or students from all over the place. For example, we have this function on the left-hand side is a ladder. As some of you may play the BattleNet, for example, the StarCraft or something, and they have this system of the ladder tournament. So we also have this created system where students can practice doing homeworks, doing practices in the system, and gain a ranking, and so that you can show off the rankings among all the students. They also have their virtual image. That the more practices, the more topics they learned, they gain this kind of coins, and use the coins they can like draw this. They can do the virtual lucky draw without needing to pay in the real money, but this kind of virtual money to get the dressing, the facial expressions, or whatever backgrounds. They can decorate their own profile, and the profile can be visited by other students. And we also create this knowledge graph that students can choose which topic to learn on their own. And on the left-hand side, we have it's basically a list of 30 cards, and each card represents a key skill or thinking for math. So after learning each topic, students will collect these cards and to learn to find out which one or two key skills they gained by learning this topic. For example, we have this kind of information the data analyticals. They had this transformation from geometry to algebra, the skills transformation to transform algebra to geometry, all these kind of different cards representing different kind of skills. So students love this. By far, in the past 2 years, actually, so we started doing this 4+ years ago, and we spent 2 entire years preparing all this kind of middle school stuff before we can actually launch this app to App Store, to Google Play, to other Android stores in mainland China. But in the past 2 years, we have been successfully gained more than 13 million student users. Students all using their own cell phones or websites to studying on their own. And most of them are actually studying without being forced by their teachers or parents. They voluntarily choose to learn on Math. And we have covered pretty much every single middle school in mainland China. Over 60,000 schools now have Math users. Well, obviously, not every single one in every single school are using now, but we're trying to expanding this thing. But for the coverage-wise, it's already covered pretty much the entire country. And one thing we're pretty proud of this is we're not just focusing on first-tier or second-tier cities. We're also expanding this to lower-tier cities and also even the urban areas, rural areas. Sorry, the ratio of our users from the first tier and second tier to third tier and lower tiers is actually 35% to 65%. This is similar, or actually the same, to the number of students in each areas, the ratio. So pretty much every single one who has internet access can have the equal opportunities to get access to this we think is fun and interesting learning materials and learn on their own. And here are some quotes from students, so I'll switch to Mandarin because I need to read the students' comments. For example, this student says, 话说洋葱数学真的很有趣，能让你1秒爱上学习. So this is something we're trying to create because the first priority is we want to make sure students love using this, not being forced by their teachers. So pay a lot of attention to figure out, trying to find the proofs whether the students can learn on their own. So we see lots of students who are replying saying the first thing which this app catches them is because they find this video can open them a new world, saying, oh, so I used to find math so boring, but this time, oh, actually math can be that interesting. That's something great. And for example, the students below says, 我用洋葱数学快1年了，还没有用洋葱的时候，我对于数学真的是不感冒，也不感兴趣，很讨厌数学。上数学课的时候经常睡觉，考试的时候也一直服于学苏水平。学苏 means 就是大家可以吃那个酥的那种蛋糕，就是感觉你看起来好像学了很多东西，但是一捏就碎了，就叫学苏。但是用了洋葱后就不一样了，我的成绩一下子突飞猛进，还考了数学满分，谢谢洋葱。这个学生他看完洋葱数学之后，觉得这个视频真的是太非常的神奇，然后这个学生在 QQ 上跟我们聊天，问我们说。求老师们的脑回路，就是说，意思就是你们到底是怎么想出来这些视频的？这个东西你怎么能想出来？数学可以这么讲？然后他说他默默地看了所有视频，做了1暑假的笔记，重新上回了初中的数学课。这个学生已经是初中毕业了，但他突然发现他用这种方式学，他把初中3年的数学在1个暑假里全都重新学了一遍，而且有了新的认识。然后他说他数学成绩一直上不去，从初2开始。换了个数学老师起，成绩就一直下滑，然后好多听不懂，然后后来他默默地看视频做笔记，然后觉得这个在学校不爱听数学课，老师一来就跟让催眠了一样，好多人都是这样，但是在家看视频就不一样，感觉跟看动漫似的，每天 做笔记到10点才睡觉。So what we saw is actually, well, at least some students, their inner learning innovation got raised up by this kind of thing. They feel they can control their own pace. They feel like they're voluntarily to learn instead of being forced. So they think they have their like a tremendous momentum to actually putting themselves in front of a desk and start learning through their own pace. So this we see really different things. And this student says, 就在我刚刚被一道等腰三角形的题折磨得双眼发酸、痛不欲生时，猛然想起我有洋葱，然后我的洋葱王子就踩着七彩祥云来拯救我了。就是他觉得传统的这种纸质的教学，或者看一个这个书上的东西，或者看这个卷子上的这个题，他觉得这个东西怎么就死活想也想不明白的时候，想到说，哎，洋葱的这个视频其实可以讲，于是打开洋葱看了一下，果然发现这个东西很简单。然后这个学生说这个又是繁忙而充实的一天。话说匆匆的视频真是打遍天下无敌手的秘籍啊！虽然我一直跳坑，但也在过程中学了很多。然后actually these posts were actually posts on Weibo, so these are all public. So students like downloaded this app, start learning on their own, and then when we feel this they have something to share, they want to go public, post on their Weibo and at Untitled, so that we can find out their comments. And this student chatted with us on QQ and says, 话说我用洋葱之前数学66分，用了之后99，就接近满分。然后他说他们同班的一个女生用洋葱后从40分提到了73分，而最关键的是这个女生说她对数学更有信心了。So confidence is another thing. So once students started kind of thinking, oh, the math is not that difficult. Math is funny. It's something that I can learn on my own. They start to feel confident. And once they have confidence on learning, they can do many, many more things. So that's another thing by supporting students to learn on their own, then the benefit we can gain. And well, I mean, these are all good stories that students have increased their score by a lot. But well, we see many students like have their scores increase tremendously. But there are also some sad stories when once they have their scores increase so much that they face some doubts from the teachers. For example, this one, the student says, 没用洋葱数学之前数学25分，用了之后102分，老师说我作弊，要给我留档案。The students try to explain to teachers, oh, the reason why I increased so much was because of this app, but the teachers won't believe. Later on, the student told me, oh, because my teacher was still using the non-smartphone, like a small, old Nokia phone. So he won't believe that someone can learn math on a cell phone. And this student says, 大家好，给大家介绍一下，这是我男朋友洋葱数学。So the students can actually feel emotional attachment to a learning software or to a learning methodology. This is something we cannot see before if the students were just put in classroom and learning all the textbook materials. And this student says Onion Math helped him to cope the problem that he were addicted to games. But actually by playing Onion Math, he feel like, oh, it's also playing games, so why not doing this instead of that? Because this is more useful. And parents feel more happy about things because all the parents, deeper in their mind, want to see the picture that the students, their own children, have motivation on learning. But it's always the opposite position that most of the times the students, parents won't find the image that students are fascinating about learning. So more and more parents are saying, oh wow, actually my kids can learn on their own. That's something I cannot imagine before. So they started kind of looking their children in a different way, thinking, oh, so actually I was wrong. I was always been doubting that they cannot learn on their own, so I had to force them doing things. But actually, they probably not just probably it's not the learning itself they're hating, it's the ways of learning they're hating. So if it can provide them with the right ways, they can start on learning on their own. So this also changed a lot of many parents' minds. So why this can, so actually by creating these things, we achieved quite a lot, but these videos were pretty difficult to make because we have to carefully tailor every single second and for drawing all the pictures and trying to, finding out the most interesting examples or the accurate examples and weave them together and to write the scripts and to have the narrative parts behind the videos, and we have all these producers to help us cut the things and put everything together. So for every single video, we actually spend, the team, which has probably around 50 to 60 people, had to spend 8 weeks for each video. But fortunately, we have this kind of production line, so at the same time, probably 10 or 20 videos were being produced at the same time. But still, this took us a long time to make this over 1,000 videos, and we're still making more and more. So we have already been doing this for more than 4 years, and probably will continue doing this for another 4, 10, whatever, 100 years. So videos is not enough. Well, only simply providing videos and self-learning tools is only the first step to flip. So we need to provide more things for teachers before they can actually jump over this reactive energy bar, as Mr. Ha just showed. Right? Everyone is flipping long-term wise is definitely a good thing. But short-term wise, there's a huge gap, a mountain everyone needs to climb up. So we think maybe as a group of supporters, we can provide more supports to teachers so that it will make your life easier when you decided to do flipping things. So how we help teachers to do flip class teaching? Well, first of all, think about if there's one person who can actually do all these things in this world, that would be teacher. Because in your classroom, not only you are the hero or the heroines, trying to to play for the entire 45 minutes in front of the audience. The students are audience, they are not participants. And you have also been the director of yourself. You direct what you do and what your students do. And you also the script writers. You decide what to play, what to show, what to speak in this class. You're also being the monitor because the students can be noisy. They can talk to each other and whatever. You have to stop them down. So you need to manage this kind of order. And you're also being doing all the accommodations and logistics and whatever the school puts you to do. And most importantly, you're not just doing the work. You're also the producer or the investors of this class of students because you are responsible for what kind of scores they get. So you are responsible for the results. So you're definitely the producer. So being one teacher meaning you're being 6 to 7 or even more roles. That's a huge challenge to every single person. So if we're still doing this, then we'll feel a strong pressure. And we feel our time has been limited. We feel so many requests from all different students asking, teacher, hey, how about this? Can I do that? And can you explain this to me? I didn't get this one. Or they just stay there doing nothing. And you have to come to them and help them individually. So it's just a difficult work. So I have respect to all teachers in this world because teachers are just so tired and have so much work to do. So what if students can learn on their own for at least some of the knowledge? And teachers can then jumping out of the circle by putting everything through your own mouth. Because you're facing, for example, 30, 40 students, and there's only one channel of knowledge coming out of your mouth. And it cannot fit every single student's pace and needs. And it's impossible to actually draw attention from all of them at the same time. But what if they can draw attention from themselves all the time? Then your role can switch from this kind of single broadcaster into a tutor role, paying more attention to their individual needs, paying attention to how to design this class, this process, then guide them through different activities so that they can not only learning concepts by understanding them, but can also practice them, can do challenge-based learning, project-based learning, all kinds of solving real-world problems. And your classroom will have more time. So these are all the typical benefits by doing flipped classrooms. For example, this is the Bloom's taxonomy charts. And usually, students need both the lower 3 tiers and upper 3 tiers before they can actually handle a concept or things. And usually, the teachers at schools, in classrooms, they spend more time broadcasting words to teach students the lower 3 tiers. Explaining concepts, right? Helping them to remember things, help them to memorize things, and doing simple applications. But actually, these things, students can definitely learn on their own. All you need to do is finding them the right materials, prepare them the right materials, arrange them the right work, and put everything into a student handbook, and making sure they actually have interest and capability to finish all the work, and to believe them. But the upper 3 levels, that's something students cannot do by their own. They have to do this in a group, and they have to solve real-time open questions. So these things that students should spend more time on this thing. But teachers have only limited amount of time. So the more time you spend on the lower 3 tiers, the less time you can spend on the upper 3. So Flip actually helps you to save more time for the upper level education methodologies. As this student said, 洋葱数学不但帮助我们学习，还解放了我们学校的数学老师。So actually, even the students can feel that their teachers got greatly relieved. Like, I don't know what exactly happened to the teachers, but the students can definitely feel the change. And we provided lots of functionalities on the back end so that teachers can assign homework, can see how each student's progress on this platform, and see how well if they handle each topic. And maybe can assign individualized work or assignments to each student. So for example, if the students are missing this kind of concept or having trouble with that, the students can assign a similar topic to him, or directly go to him to ask why and whether he needs help. Also, there's some teaching methodology supports that we also provide to teachers in mainland China. For example, we have this like a thing called 洋葱教研室. I don't know how to translate 教研 exactly because it's this kind of special term in mainland China where there's a group of teachers sitting together to kind of do a study how to teach better. And there's one person called 教研员 who is the head of these teachers and organizing this kind of event. And these were all 教研员 belongs to the local education bureaucracy or whatever. So I don't know exactly how to translate this word, but we have this kind of we have this part of thing called 洋葱教研室, which we trying to play the role of 教研员 by providing different teaching methodologies, different concepts to teachers, both offline and online, and through videos and through live chats. So I'll show an example of this 洋葱教研室 video. It's actually explains or shows a problem that most most teachers will face when they start using Animas, because if they find out, well, Animas video is interesting, So the first thing they do is they play the videos in their own classrooms to the students. And students felt, oh, wow, this is interesting. So they started kind of getting more and more interested in math. But then the teachers will assign them to go back to learn on their own, the assignment. So everyone goes back today, watch Onion Math, this chapter, this topic. And then they started kind of finding problems because they usually failed to provide the students enough guide on how to watch videos. So we created a short video explaining teachers why this won't work and what they should do if they want students to learn on their own effectively.
哟，这么惨烈呀！你出的都是什么题呀？
哎，别提了。哎，我不是之前拿洋葱数学的视频在课堂上放嘛，然后效果还挺不错，他们都挺喜欢看的，学习兴趣也起来了。然后想，那既然这样，我把他们当做作业留回家让他们看呗。这一流出问题来了，上课一问三不知。今天下课小测，你看看，这么惨烈，哎呦喂，看得我眼睛疼。我觉得他们绝对回家没有认真看。
哎，你先别气。哎，洋葱数学教师端不是有数据分析的功能吗？你看一看就知道了呀。你布置作业的时候怎么跟学生说的？
我就说，回家看洋葱数学视频啊。然后我就在课后的那个教师端布置了2个知识点，让他们回家看就得了。
哦，原来如此。你看啊，之前是你在课上带着学生一起看，对不对？你还能控制视频的进度，时不时的跟学生强调一下重点难点。哎，那对于学生来说，你就是学生指路的明灯啊。那现在你把作业布置给学生回家自己去预习，那你相当于一下子把灯关了，那学生还不两眼一抹黑啊？
那也就是说，这个视频不能留作作业，我这个方法不对是吗？
方法当然是好的呀，可是你也没跟学生说。
是吗？
方法当然是好的呀，可是你也没跟学生说要注意什么，那学生看完了可不啥都记不住吗？哎，洋葱数学已经考虑到这一点了，专门出了完全匹配视频的洋葱同步辅导书，学生在看视频的时候同步完成上面的学案，对于不会的知识点还可以反复观看，既能查缺补漏，又能巩固提升。
哦，有洋葱数学，然后还有同步辅导，真是锦上。
So you get the idea. It's actually all the real time, well, the real world problems his teachers will face once they're started kind of doing flip things. So we have, it's because we've been doing this for a long time, so we've been monitoring all this kind of, collecting all these kind of different problems that we summarize them, classify them, and kind of trying to provide solutions for each scenario that teachers will face most commonly. Okay, and as the video mentioned, we provide to teachers not only just a video or the app, but also the student handbooks that how students should watch the video, how should the students to finish this kind of self-learning work if the students, so teachers want to let the students learn on their own. So we prepared all these kind of individualized assignments, tasks for students. For example, the first part would be what the video is about. So students will first learn the theme of this video, and then they're answering some pre-watching questions to get a feeling of this kind of idea, and then start watching. But while watching, they should have some questions. For example, from the first minute to the second minute, it's actually talking on one thing. So we'll have one question dealing with this part. And so after watching this video, the students should be able to answer all the questions so that they can actually handle the things. Otherwise, they will realize, oh, actually, I didn't really pay attention to the thing. I didn't really understand it. I should watch it again. So as long as they can finish all this page of the student handbook, the teachers will be confident to say that students actually absorb the information from this video. But this was actually a method created by an American teacher called Watch, Summarize, Question, WSQ. It's a methodology that we learned. And we also train teachers. We have lots of these kind of WSQ training sessions for teachers in mainland China on how to leverage these things to create their own student handouts to do their own flipping things. It's not only just for math, it's for all subjects. And we also have 学思达, this very effective way to actually helping teachers to do flip, because the main key idea behind 学思达 is actually allow students to learn on their own, generating their own thinking, answering some guided questions, and express in front of the entire classroom. It's the exact way of saying flip. It's more accurate, more fulfilled, and not by saying just flip it. Is probably teachers think, oh, so how should I do that? What kind of skills actually we let the student to develop by doing flip? But just that. The answer is actually we're letting students learn on their own, asking students to think on their own and express, so that we can let the students to practice to generate skills of self-learning, self-thinking, and expression. So the key motions, the key actions, and the skills they want students to develop are the same. So based on 学思达, we can actually providing teachers with more live ways of how to do flips, and provide lots of tools, methodologies, infrastructures, because 学思达already has a huge community and generated lots of common practices in different cases. So we also have invited Mr. Zhang Huicheng to mainland China to actually give speech to mainland teachers. We also invited Mr. Ha to mainland China to give the 3 hurdles of flipping classroom, the easiest parts of doing things. Also, Mr. Hao to show the students, show the teachers various ways of creating the preparation for the flipping classrooms by simple technology. For example, Lightboard. For example, how to record your own videos in very kind of simple setup. So the teachers thought, wow, it's actually, before I thought flipping was so difficult that it requires a huge amount of work, huge amount of knowledge and skills, huge amount of resources, and even money. But actually, wow, this Mr. Ha from Hong Kong actually did everything in a short period of time by leveraging small, simple technologies, and by doing this kind of small steps, then can flip the entire class in a short period of time. So they felt it's actually the flipping classroom idea is plausible and practical. We also organized this event. So it's called HOPE, Excellent Teacher Conference in mainland China. We organize this once a year. So last year was actually the first event. So we select active users of Math doing flipping classroom in their own schools all over the country, and combine them together. So more than 200 of them, actually close to 300, were combined together in the same place. We organized this 2.5-day workshop session. So the teachers can communicate with each other, form a community, and share their own experiences. Because every single school is different. They're facing different problems, different questions. They have different parents, they have different hardwares, they have different supporting from their headmasters or whatever school systems, and they have different ways of teaching. So we provide some basic ideas, basic guidelines, but for the more customized solutions, they need to develop on their own and share with the schools which have the similar situation. So community is very important, because we're more like the centralized kitchen, prepare some centralized food. But when we send this raw materials to students, to the teachers will then cook on their own, cook their own flavors, and then share their own recipes with other teachers. So we formed this event, the Hope. That's the key ideas behind Hope. We want teachers to be honored mentors. We want them to have organic growth. We want to provide them or help them to develop their own practical models. And also together we feel an energetic community. So this is the picture from our first Hope conference last year in Guangdong. And this year we will have the conference again in hopefully August in Beijing. So after doing all this, nowadays we have more than 0.3 million teachers already subscribed UniMath, started using this. Most of them are middle school math teachers. It looks, probably you won't have idea of this number, but actually the total number of middle school teachers in mainland China is about 0.6 million to 0.8 million. So this number is already close to 50% of all the middle school math teachers, all using UniMath, and lots of them start using UniMath to support their flip teaching. So lots of teachers in mainland China have already started doing flipping teaching nowadays. And they have formed lots of communities, lots of WeChat groups. So we officially are running several hundred WeChat groups with more than 100 teachers each. Lots of teachers communicating, sharing their own ideas, sharing their own practices, sharing the problems they're facing every day in the WeChat group. And another a teacher from a similar school who experienced this before and found out their own solution will share their own practices and help the teachers guide them through this kind of flipping difficulty, challenges process. And the students actually have spent lots of time learning on their own. So each month we have all the students learning our platforms. All the time adds up. It actually reaches 0.1 billion minutes per month. In comparison to Khan Academy, so Khan Academy has lots of all these kind of videos, varying from all kinds of topics: math, physics, chemistry, whatever, economics, SAT, GMAT, and it ranges from elementary schools to universities, and has users from all over the place. And we have only mainly middle school math contents, and students and teachers from mainland China. So for Khan Academy, the same number actually is just 0.5 billion, and we have already reached 0.1 billion. So it's already 1/5 of Khan Academy's time, like learning time. So we see the students from mainland China were actually so vibrant about learning things. This is something that we usually think that's just kind of counterintuitive, right? We always think students are lazy, they hate learning. They want to spend more time on gaming. So if we say, oh, here's an app, here's a thing you can learn on their own, they usually, okay, fine, and then go back and then launch a game and start playing. But we see otherwise. So if you trust students, you trust they can learn on their own, and you can make sure that's something, you can find them something or prepare something that is interesting, is actually fitting their own cognitive routines, then you will see a huge miracle from them. The teachers are happy about this too. That, for example, many teachers have experienced great significant increase on scores from their teachers, from their class. And they also experienced the change of their students. Before it was like everyone thinks math class was boring, but now more and more students find their math teachers are actually funny and interesting because they're using different methodologies and ways to let them start learning on their own. And we see great change on the scores. For example, this one is experiments by a teacher from Henan. It's just a normal middle school there. And the teacher actually tracks down 4 semesters from 7th grade and 8th grade with 4 classes. So these 4 classes, 2 were chosen to use Money Math and doing flip teaching, and 2 were just using traditional methodologies. And at the starting, for example, you see the gray bars represents the ones without using flip teaching. And the 2 yellow ones were actually the classes using flip teaching. And the starting of this semester, the starting of the 7th grade, the middle school career, these 4 classes were about the same grade. So the students were equally assigned to each class. But as time goes, they start to have difference. So by the end of the 8th grade, you can see significant difference between their scores. For example, for the ones using flip methods, the average score could reach 85% out of 100. But now for the classes who do not still using the traditional methods, we see students starting feeling more and more difficult to learn new concepts and to apply the new concepts on more and more difficult questions, because the questions were more combined of different concepts and have more deeper and longer larger chains. And students using traditional methods of learning do not have enough practices or emphasis on how to apply their own thinking to solve the problems. They were just memorizing how to do things. So we see a huge gap between 2 classes. And we see this a lot, all over the country, all over the places. Many classes have this kind of significant, statistically plausible results. So just to a little bit sum up, what kind of supports it will be needed if teachers would want to flip their own class. So we think these 3 are essential to do flipping. The one is you need a way to do high quality learning and teaching so that students can learn on their own, or you can teach flipped teaching to teach them. So they can still be able to understand and absorb things on their own, but on their own pace. And second, you need a systematic process or product, because the Education Bureau usually have the curriculum, like the whatever district-wide curriculum, that students still need to learn the whole semester. So you cannot just flip one class without flipping the others. So if you do, you have to pretty much flip all classes. So this requires we have systematical and long-term and full learning materials for students to learn on their own. So that can be another hurdle. And the third one is the teachers will need some support on not only the concepts, but also the teaching methodology, teaching pedagogy, and how to organize students, how to ask them to, for example, group together to study on their own, and how to make videos, how to check their homework, and how to make sure that they actually do the self-learning parts, and make sure how they actually participate on class discussion and other projects. So you need to redesign or rethink the entire teaching class. But I think for teachers, the third part is actually the least, it's not that difficult, because you guys are excellent directors. You can design your own class, you can do everything. You used to be able to do all 6 roles excellently. But this time, there's only one role for you as a director. So you direct your own process of things. You design the process and letting other resources to help you, letting students to learn on their own, to have their own potential. So your work will definitely be easier. I'll skip this part. So just a briefly mention the systematic part, because we also do this way to design our entire 600 plus middle school math lectures in this kind of systematic way by having all the 3-year contents mapped out and figuring out what kind of contents, what the main roles, what the main lines behind these math concepts and different chapters, and find out their key skills for each math skills, and combine the math skills to the math topics and put them together so that we have this kind of combination of things so students can learn on their own without being lost. And so that we can make sure after they learn all the concepts, all the videos, they not only developed the concepts, but also they will be able to, when they're ready for doing the exams. So why flip? I think you all have the answers already, or you've heard enough talks about this, because we're facing more and more knowledge we need to squeeze into students' mind. And we have shorter and shorter time teaching them because they're facing more and more challenges from all over the place, from society, from their family, from everywhere, and from games, from social needs. So they have shorter and shorter time, but we have more and more stuff to teach. So we have to change some way. And the teaching methodology, traditional teaching methodology was just one way. And it's probably not the most effective way of teaching and learning. And by doing the traditional lecturing things, the students won't develop their own skills. They develop some knowledge, but knowledge won't work, won't help them to prepare for the real-world challenge. And there's also one key issue because all teachers are different, especially for the urban area and the rural areas in mainland China. They're facing great gap between the education qualities of these two because all the education required their teachers to do. So the difference on skills between teachers actually have a great impact on the learning outcome. So if the students can learn some things on their own, this can help equalize the system. So there are two challenges we were facing. One, how to help teachers to relieve from this repetitively teaching so that they can have more time to help students to do higher-end explorations, real-world challenges, challenge-based learnings, project-based learnings. That's one key question. And challenge two is how to help students, how to help this kind of high-quality education resources to spread evenly to all the students all over the place. So I think the answer is just flip. So if we can have more and more teachers, more and more students joining this flipping way of doing things, then the students will be happier, teachers will be happier, their parents will be happier, everyone will be happier. And so remember this is already something, it's not just a beginning. It's already happened. It's happening a lot. For example, in mainland China, we have already over 300,000 teachers joining this kind of thing. 0.3 million is a huge number. So it's definitely already a big movement. Everyone's trying this. So don't left behind. And we started this project 10 years ago through a nonprofit organization. We help rural countries in Gansu, in Hunan, and other places, the rural students and schools to learn on their own by providing them with cheap tablets, with wireless tools, with self-learning stuff. So today we feel a little bit relieved that we actually can help these students by providing them with something they really want to learn and they can get access to. Without physically being there. So we hope to have you joining us, and because as we said on this Hope conference, a group of people can go further. So joining together, we can share, we can motivate each other, we can chat, we can do whatever we want, and we can go visiting things, go finding out new ways of doing things, and we won't feel alone. And as long as we're not feeling alone, we have the energy to go further, and together we'll come over through the hurdle and eventually see this great new plateau of the new flipping and new learning world. That's what I'm sharing today, and these are the you can search 洋葱数学 on Google or Baidu or visit our website or download our apps from like iOS store, for example. And also there's a WeChat barcode you can scan. This is a WeChat, I don't know how to say, 公众号. So it actually has lots of information once you subscribe this kind of the area we call 洋葱卓越教师. It's a WeChat barcode. That being said, thank you very much.